Welcome to this video where we'll discuss HTML semantic elements. A semantic HTML element clearly describes its meaning, or the meaning of the content wrapped within the opening and closing semantic element, to both the browser and the developer. Examples of non-semantic elements are the div and the span, which we have in our page right now. Those tell nothing about the content contained within the tags. If we go back to our web page and we collapse the divs that we have on our page, so we'll collapse the div for the heading, the description, the planet list, and the footer. Without the comments on the page, the contents of these divs aren't clear to us. Sure, we can expand the div for the heading and see there's an H1 and an image that we're using for the solar system, and we can guess that this is probably our heading. But the div tag itself doesn't give any indication of what that content is. The same with the footer. It's just a div. Without expanding that, I don't really know what that information is that'll be shown on the page. If I expand it, I see an href for the credits, crediting the content from Wikipedia. Semantic elements, on the other hand, are descriptive of the content which they contain. So some examples of semantic elements are the HTML form, the table, article, as well as the elements listed here. So on the right, if we look at this image, we'll see it has a pretty well-defined structure for a web page, where it uses the HTML semantic header element, in which we would expect to see elements and content related to the header for a particular web page. And in our case, it would be the H1 tag in the image of the solar system. If we had navigation on our web page, if we had multiple pages on our site and we wanted to link from one to another, say from the index page to a login page or a register page or an about page, those elements and that content would be wrapped in an opening and closing nav tag. And the footer, we would expect to see content related to the footer for our website. So these elements are descriptive of the content held therein. Now on our web page, it's really not that big of a deal because we don't have a lot of code here. So it's easy for us to pretty much expand all of the code on the page and understand what's wrapped within those divs. And of course we have descriptive comments. However, if this page were hundreds of lines of code, it would be very difficult to scroll through the page and understand what content is contained within each section. So what I did was I took the index.html page, I saved it as a new web page called Semantic Index, and then I changed the divs to be semantic elements. So if I click this icon over on the right, it'll allow me to split the editor into two panes. And if I close the folder icon, we can see more code. So I have our original index on the left and the semantic index on the right. Now the head stays the same because the semantic elements are really included within the body, because they wrap the content that's displayed on the page. Now, if I come down and collapse my semantic elements, like we did the divs, we can see that even without the comments, it's very descriptive of what each section holds. So here we have the semantic header tag. We would expect to see elements related to the header for our page. And of course, if we expand that, we see our H1 and our image. And I don't even need the comments explaining what's contained within the elements, as I did with the div, because the div isn't semantic. It isn't descriptive of the content of the H1 in the image. The header is. This tells both the browser and the developer, hey, everything included within the opening and closing header tag is going to be related to the header on the site. The same with the footer. It's the same content that we had in our original div, but now it's wrapped in a semantic element. Over on the left, in our div where we have the text for the description of the page, and then we have another div for the planet list, I've used the HTML semantic main element to wrap all of that code. And what the main element represents is the main content on the page. And the main content that we're displaying is the description and the list of planets. So if I expand main, now we see, instead of just a paragraph with the description and then the H2 in the unordered list of planets, I've added HTML section tags, which define two distinct sections within the main content. The first section contains our paragraph with the text for the description, and the second contains the list of planets. Because the section tag isn't descriptive of the content held within, I've kept the comment, but it does define a unique section within the main element. So these are semantic HTML elements. I would encourage you to take a look at this page on W3 Schools and on another excellent site for learning how to code, freecodecamp.org. There's a very good article on semantic HTML5 elements. So if you have some time, I'd also recommend searching for the freecodecamp.org semantic HTML5 elements and giving this a read. In our next video, we'll look at HTML tables.